This episode is sponsored by Pennant Patchworks. If you're a Texas Tech fan and you have a little bit of swag to you, Pennant Patchworks is a perfect hat for you. They're a Lubbock-based hat and t-shirt company with various styles to choose from, as you can see here.
At checkout, we got an exclusive code with Pennant Patchworks. You can use our code DRAFTROOM15 for 15% off your entire order. That's DRAFTROOM15. So go ahead and visit pennantpatchworks.com and grab yourself a hat today.
Or t-shirt.
What up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. Back to our vintage form.
Oh, yeah. Talking real football now. It's no more game shows.
Yeah, we're back to the original stuff, back to the draft stuff. Season's almost over. College football season's winding down, so it's time to get into the draft stuff.
It's time to get serious. We got to start talking real stuff and informing you guys. Okay, this is where our deep fans come into play, and the people are wanting to learn a little bit more about the NFL and college world of football.
For the original people that have been here, this is going to be what it was like.
This is day one. Let's go.
Back day one. So the first thing I want to talk about, Dave, is there's two guys in the rookie race right now that are up for the award. I think it's a two-man race.
Mm-hmm.
Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix. Those are the two front runners. I think there's some other guys that
For
have done
Offensive Rookie of the Year?
right, that have done well, but they're not at the same tier of these guys. So right now, if the season ended today, who would you give the award to?
I think it should be Jaden Daniels. Pretty easy. Although I don't think Caleb Williams should be out of discussion here. I think he's on pace to do just as well as C.J. Stroud did in his rookie year. I may be wrong on that, but last time I checked, I think he was on pace.
He's on pace for 3,700 yards, 5 interceptions, and a certain number of touchdowns that matches C.J. Stroud. I saw that.
Right.
And so
I think Caleb Williams is getting a little bit of downplay. I think there's a lot of people saying that he was going to be a bust. Don't agree with that at all. I think they should, kind of eat their words on that one. But talking about Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix in terms of versus, like who would win, I think Jaden Daniels should. I think he's shown out way more.
well, look, these are the two guys that when they headed into the draft, they had the most experience. So the two guys we said that were most pro-ready. They went into the systems that we knew that they would be good in.
Right.
We knew Sean Payton would love Bo Nix after what he's done with Drew Brees, and we connected Drew Brees to Bo Nix.
Right.
We said those two guys are similar in the game that they play. And then, Caleb went to the Bears with that coaching staff that obviously has not been good, him getting fired recently.
Right.
And then, you look at his supporting cast, and it's not what you would have thought it would have been, right? So, heading into the season, we said Caleb Williams, he has DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, DeAndre Swift.
Yeah, everybody thought it was going to be crazy.
Right, and Keenan Allen hasn't been near the player he usually is. DeAndre Swift's the same way. DJ Moore's having a down year. So overall, it looks like it's just it's not what we expected it to be. And that there might be a little bit of cope in that, being like, because you look at the other guys, Bo Nix doesn't have a great surrounding cast. I think Cortland Sutton is arguably better than anyone on the Bears roster, though. And then
I think it turns into more of a system issue with Caleb Williams and that whole deal. And we'll get into that later, more on that part. But I think it's not ultimately all on Caleb Williams. And like we're talking about, the supporting cast around it, not just the players. But, that goes as far up as a GM type situation for me. I just think it's impressive how I don't think anybody thought that the Commanders and the Broncos were one position away from being a dominant team in the NFL.
Well, it makes you think when you look ahead to the draft and you see a lot of teams that they're just missing a quarterback, and they hope to be those teams that can just go from 3 wins to 10 in one season.
Well, that's the thing. You look at the Commanders and the Broncos, and they don't have. Let's be honest. They don't have really standout dudes. They don't have terribly good playmakers. The receiving core is lacking.
I think
Cortland
Cortland Sutton's come up, but that's that comes with having a decent quarterback.
Right. They're lacking in a lot of categories, but their quarterback play has just improved them so much.
And then back to what we were talking about with rookies. Drake Mays looked good since he's come in. We have yet to see guys like Penix and McCarthy, obviously. But Drake Mays looked good from what we've seen. He looks like he's a good quarterback that can be good in that system, and they're going to have
Right.
to build around him because, you talk about missing playmakers. The Patriots are missing a lot of on that roster.
Yeah, they're on the forefront.
But moving on, we mentioned this briefly, but the Bears fired Matt Eberflus after a horrible Thanksgiving and not a great season. Bears sit at 4-9.
They started off hot. I think at one point they were 4-2.
And then
looking
been
promising.
losses since then. But what's your first thoughts in the Bears coaching change?
I just think it's ridiculous how they keep doing this. They did it with Trubisky. They did it with Fields. I mean, they bring a quarterback in for 1 year and they put him in a new system twice and they expect him to excel in it. And then they trade him away and they're doing it the same thing with probably one of the best quarterback prospects coming out in a while. And I think it's putting his season to shame. And it's almost like making him having to start over. Like it's almost like his rookie year went for nothing.
Right, you look at the guys that have had a lot of success as rookies. Justin Herbert being the outlier here because he's dealt with multiple coaches, but Burrow's had the same coach. C.J. Stroud, it seems like he's going to have the same coach for a while. And so going into those good systems ultimately gives you, an immense boost. Bryce Young has dealt with coaching changes already, and that could be part of his, lack of success. But he's figuring out with Dave Canales now.
Yeah, I feel like that's more of like for a veteran quarterback to handle. Like a veteran, you could
Right.
expect a veteran quarterback to come into a new coaching system and be all right. I mean, you see Aaron Rodgers, who's not doing anything terrible, and he kind of can fit that mold well. But you give that to a rookie, that's just so unfair when they're still trying to adapt just to the NFL level of play in the first place. And now they're having to adapt to two systems. Well, three systems, really. They're coming from college, so they have to adapt to that one and then another one. So I just think they're putting him in a bad situation. He's probably going to catch heat from it, which is not deserved.
Well, the bright thing about this is that they're doing it now. And so they're
Right.
not, rolling with him another year and then giving Caleb 2 years wasted, essentially.
All I'm saying is their new quarterback better be the dude. Like,
Their
they
new-
better go out and find somebody who can stick with them for 5, 6, 10 years.
Yeah, their new coach better be the guy, or else they're in a heap of trouble because now they've got a quarterback who's going to be struggling with new coaches. He might be able to overcome that, but you never want to put that pressure on a rookie quarterback or a young quarterback like Williams, we know he has talent, so they have to find the right guy there. Moving on, so we know the Bears have had a disappointing season from what we projected them to do, but another team
Right.
that has had a terrible season compared to where they were projected. This team is projected in the top of the AFC East. There's people thought they would win the division. That's the New York Jets. What do you make of their disappointing season, and who do you ultimately kind of point the finger at?
I mean, it's kind of hard. I know we just talked about it, but it's like it's kind of almost the same thing. You know what I mean? I mean, we saw Robert Saleh, all that, bull crap that went down, and they're having trouble with that side of it. And then it's just hard to me when you get Aaron Rodgers and you get Devontae Adams and you're having all these expectations and how can we fit Wilson in, to the role? How can we fit Adams into it? How do we do? There's just too many moving parts that I don't think they can quite grasp and put it all into one machine. Because don't get me wrong, on paper, dude, you see this team and that's the reason they were predicted to go so good. You see it on paper and it's hard to say that they wouldn't be a good team. So
Right.
I think something's not clicking farther up in the coaching realm and in the system realm of things. I think A-Rod has a little bit of stuff to do with that. I just think there's probably too much, I'm talking about miscommunication between A-Rod and the coach, probably.
I know this might, make some people mad, but when you look at the bigger scheme of things and you have a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers come in and it's, breaking news, and he comes in and he's immediately more powerful than the GM, and he's immediately more powerful than the head coach and all the position coaches, and he's the most powerful dude in the franchise. That's not how it's supposed to be. And you can say that it should be with a guy like Aaron Rodgers, but when you come in and you're saying, I need this guy, I need this guy, I need this guy, and it's guys like Alan Lazard who you're paying $12 million on a 5-year contract, and now you have Alan Lazard for 5 years. A-Rod's not going to be there for 5 years.
Right.
And then now you go and get Devontae Adams. He's going to want his money, and he's 31 years old. And so now you have a bunch of guys that are aging, as in Rodgers and Adams, and you have a roster that's getting old. You still have young superstars like Wilson and Breece Hall, and Braylon Allen's been a good draft pick so far, but then
Right.
you're just kind of putting a lot on these veterans who are on the decline of their careers, and so that doesn't give you a window as big as you need it to be to compete in a division with young guys like Tua and Josh Allen and Tyreek and
100%.
Guys like that. And so it's hard to have a quarterback like that come in and not be what you wanted him to be. And so for the Jets, they're gonna try and figure this out with coaching. They're gonna try and figure it out through the draft. They, like I said, they do have young pieces, but I think they're in need for a bigger change. And by bigger change, I mean they're gonna have to get a young quarterback in that system and let him develop under Rodgers, just as Love did and just as Rodgers did a long time ago. And so the Jets have some work to do in the draft. They have some work to do in the offseason. They have some money, but a lot of that's going to go to some of their veteran guys that are wanting to get paid. But we're going to do an exercise here, and we're going to look at the top 8 teams picking in the draft, and we're going to see how much they need to be in a better spot.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll say like a team that's in need of a major shift. That's just going to be they need a major change. They need to flip their team. Okay, or there's
like a total rebuild.
Like total rebuild, or there's going to be like middle of the road. They just need a few pieces, but there's still some work to do. Or they're right there. There's one position away, one playmaker away, or whatever that may be. So, looking first, this is a hefty one to start out with. But we got the Cleveland Browns, and this is not a great situation that you want to be in. They're going into this season. They have negative $47 million in cap space and no quarterback, as Cleveland does. I think first thing you do is you have a garage sale. So you put everyone on your team on the market. You say, we're selling everyone. We need as much draft capital as we can. We need to get rid of these contracts. I think even guys like Myles Garrett, you got to ship out. So, because I don't know if you can bring Deshaun Watson back he was a $230 million fully guaranteed contract. Do you even attempt to bring him back? What do you do in that situation?
I think he's long gone. He's had his chance to prove that he can do something with the team that's capable. It's not like they didn't have any playmakers. I just don't think he's a fit for that. You have to go out and try and get a quarterback. And I know they're sitting at 8 or 9 for that draft pick. I don't know if they need to sit maybe this year out, just get a playmaker, get a dude, maybe, like you were talking about, trade Myles Garrett, pull a trigger on Abdul Carter, a guy like that, get another star at defense, and then, sit on it, wait another year for a quarterback, and let somebody like Jameis Winston take over for one more year. I know he's playing well. But I think, Cleveland is just a mess, obviously. I think that's a whole rebuild. We can start there.
I think that is a major rebuild. I think they got to start from the bottom and go work their way up. And then I think that starts with getting a young quarterback through the draft. And you're right. When we know this class of quarterbacks coming up isn't, the greatest we've seen in a while, it might be the worst we've seen in a while. So taking a year off, getting other positions, and then going after your quarterback, maybe in a guy like Arch Manning.
Somebody young.
How high he'll be up by that time, but I'm assuming, he'll be the top of the list there. But the Giants, Cleveland is in a total rebuild.
They need to shut everything down, dish everything out, start again.
They're 31st in the NFL in cap space. The only one being below them is New Orleans Saints. And so Cleveland, they have really nothing going for them. I think we both agree they're a major shift from them. Number 7 is Carolina. Now, Carolina's won some games recently, or they've been in games. Mm-hmm. Bryce Young's looking a little bit better than he has. But I think they got to keep going with Bryce Young. I don't think you give up on him yet.
100% not.
I think you give him a reason to succeed. So you give him playmakers through the draft. They're going to have, like right now, they're about the 7th pick. There's going to be receivers, elite receivers at that level. Or if they want to, beef up an offensive line to help him out, there's going to be some good tackles at that spot. So give him some protection, give him some playmakers. I like what Dave Canales is doing. I think he was a great choice. But I think the Panthers, I think they do need a lot of pieces. You look at the defense, they just lost Brian Burns.
Yeah, they dished some guys out. I think their offense is one playmaker away from being a pretty good offense.
I think Legette's going to take the next step next year. He should.
Yeah, if you get one more, you get one more playmaker playmaker out there on a wide receiver role, something like that.
And then Chuba Hubbard's been great.
Yeah, I was about to say, I mean, their running back core is looking promising, and they still have Jonathan Brooks, who's yet to show off or showcase any of his skills. I think he still has some stuff, and then Tank, they're just not letting him necessarily get out there like he should be. But even if not, yeah, like you said, Chuba Hubbard is amazing running back out there. Beef up O-line, get a playmaker, get some key pieces on that defense. Defense line, go get you another DB. Big fan of J.C. Horn. That dude's a beast. I mean, you're a couple pieces away. I wouldn't say you're in a complete rebuild, but I'd say
you're right in the middle.
Right in the middle, you got a couple pieces. I think Bryce Young I think it's finally starting to click for him.
Right.
You can definitely see some improvement in his style of game and his gameplay, 100%. So I think, he's 1 year from clicking on all cylinders, especially if they get him in the right system with the new guy coming in at that 7 spot. I think that's what you said, right?
7, right.
Yeah, I think they can do well.
All right, well, I think we're in agreement there. The middle of the road, not complete total rebuild from top to bottom, and they're not a couple of pieces away yet. They're still a good chunk of playmakers and defensive pieces, but they're in that middle section. All right, number 6, the Tennessee Titans. This was a tough one when you really look at it. I think it's the same story.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're in that middle section. I think you really need Will Levis to work. He's in the same class as Bryce Young. He's shown some things. He's shown some bad plays and some great ones. He's shown his playmaking ability, but he needs to develop. I think they did throw him in there a little too early. I think he should have sat a little bit more. He was a raw prospect coming in to the Titans, and he should have been able to develop behind a good coaching staff. But unfortunately, they had to switch too. And again, coaching staffs don't really help young quarterbacks. But the offensive line's getting better. They got J.C. Latham this past draft, so they're beefing that up a little bit.
I think Will Levis is a guy that a whole team can get behind. The thing I like about Will Levis is I think you can tell just from watching the games that he's a leader out there, and dude's always hustling. I mean, if there's one trait in a quarterback that I think should be valued over anything, is that. Because you think about it, I mean, the quarterback is leading the team. And like you said, he does bad things, he does good things, but at least, he's out there, busting tail every play. That's the one thing I like about Will Levis, and like you said, they are beefing up that offensive line. I think, the same thing, give him some playmakers, see what he can do.
Yeah, they just unloaded DeAndre Hopkins. Calvin Ridley isn't what he used to be. So they need some more playmakers there. Tony Pollard has been, he's been good enough, but obviously they might miss a guy like Derrick Henry there. But their defensive side of the ball has been, sneaky good. I like Jeffrey Simmons a lot.
I think Snead just got hurt, yeah?
Yeah.
Snead got hurt. He's out.
But they could really benefit from a guy like Abdul Carter on the edge to help that defensive side even more, or Ted McMillan as another playmaker, premier playmaker at that, for a team like this. So would you agree they're in the middle section right there?
Yes, I think they're
total rebuild, but not a couple pieces.
Yeah, honestly, I think they're closer than the Panthers are.
Okay, I could see that.
I think they're kind of the halfway point between one player away and a couple pieces away.
I can see that just because of the difference in the offensive line between the two teams. And the Panthers still have
I think the Titans have a little bit better defense as well.
Good pieces there. All right, that was number 6. Number 5 we just talked about. We're gonna skip over this one, just because we already hit on the New York Jets. But where would you rank them in terms of total rebuild, a couple pieces, very, very close?
The Jets?
Jets.
I mean, I'd have to say in a whole, a couple pieces. I mean, I think you have to figure out your quarterback position. I think you have to figure out the coaching staff. Position-wise, really nothing else but the quarterback. They're about 2 pieces away.
Honestly, I think they're probably in the middle tier where they need a good chunk of pieces, but I also think those are the most important pieces, so it makes me lean towards a rebuild. You have guys like Sauce and Garrett Wilson who have been excellent. DJ Reed's been good on the defensive side of the ball. Quinnen Williams, but they're all, I mean, for lack of better words, they're just getting wasted.
Right.
And so you need to figure out those premier positions first before you can start to, really get an impact from those guys.
Right.
Because Sauce, as a cornerback, you can't really win too many games that way. Same thing as a receiver. You need those premier positions, and you need to figure out the coaching staff before all else. So, I'd say I would say that they're in a worse position than the other two, honestly. I like the Panthers and Titans positions more than the Jets. I just don't like they just put their too many eggs in one basket with Adams and Rodgers there, and it's not.
Yeah, I
paid
agree. I think I'll still say they're pretty close because if they get a good coaching staff and a good quarterback, I think they can be dominant.
All right, number 4. This was an interesting one. The New England Patriots. They got their quarterback. They got the guy they're going to roll with, and they're paying him absolutely nothing. So he's still going to be on that rookie contract, so that's not a problem. They have a lot to build on the roster. You look at the roster on paper, and it's not very good. But heading into the offseason, they have the most cap space available for 2025, so they can spend what they want on who they want. So they should do some good spending there.
Right.
I think offloading Matthew Judon in the offseason to the Falcons was a good move because they knew they weren't going to win games this season.
They're kind of in that first year of the rebuilding, like a total rebuild. They're in like that first year.
Right, but they have the most important position. Now you can start to rebuild. You have the cap space available to do so.
Right, but I don't think it's going to be a deal where they go and get some players and they're
no, I don't
being
think it's going to be a
team next year.
1-year jump. But you have May on a 5-year deal potentially, paying him nothing.
Right,
That's a
their
great
future
start.
is looking good.
It's looking like, the 49ers benefited greatly off of paying Purdy nothing.
Right.
On a 4-year deal, and so the Patriots seem to be benefiting that greatly. So like I said, offloading Judon, getting some value out of him while they could, because they're not going to win any games this season anyway. He's not going to, he's just a guy on a roster at that point. He's not going to be a difference maker for them, and then he's also getting older. So I think it was a good idea. So with the Patriots, I would say that they're in a total rebuild, but I like this position more than almost any of the others because of the cap space, the availability to spend, and you have your premier positions figured out. I think Gerard Mayo has been good. I don't think they're going to move on from him anytime soon. So I think you give May into a coaching staff that is going to be with him for the long haul, and I think that benefits the team greatly.
Right.
And I think this team could be a lot of fun in a couple years.
Would you rather than pull on an offensive lineman or a playmaker? They have 5th pick.
Right now they're at 5th, but we could see them go down. I don't know. Ted McMillan would be great. I think watching that would be a lot of fun between him and May. I think offensive line is an option. I think Abdul Carter is also an option. So they have a lot of spaces they can go. They have a lot of different directions. But I like the position the Patriots are in.
They're in a good spot, especially with their young quarterback, like you said, 100%. I would like to see him fire around the offensive line, get that taken care of. We can always, like I said, all that cap space. You can always, get a playmaker and a veteran playmaker and a veteran defensive player, and then start growing with that young team. I think they should pull.
I like it. I like the Patriots position
on the tackle.
Next up, a team that I think is in a similar decent position. I like the Giants, your New York Giants. They're in a good spot. You know that they're missing the quarterback.
100%, and I think that's the only thing they're missing.
But we've talked about this. You look at the defensive side of the ball. They got Newman. They got Phillips in the draft.
Very young. I don't think people realize that. Very young.
Young set of defensive backs there. They got
Banks, Phillips. You got Newman, like we said. Newman's playing into a role. I think he's going to be great for us.
And you look at the defensive line.
Great. I mean, depends on if you want to throw Brian and Birds and Thibodeau in that conversation. But if not, I mean, we have, in my opinion, the best interior defensive line in Dexter Lawrence. You look at our linebacker core, like I said, Thibodeau, Burns, Okereke. I think even Micah McFadden is looking good on that side of the ball. I think we're one playmaker away, one quarterback away, and maybe throw in, a third-round DB who can get some stuff done, a little sneaker in the draft, and it's a complete turnaround. But the thing is, we cannot, and I hate to say it, but say we do pull the trigger on Shedeur, I do think Deion's going to follow Shedeur wherever he goes, by the way, 100%.
And we were talking about this the other day, but, we've been talking about coaches with young quarterbacks. So if you take Shedeur and you give him and you fire DeBoer after this season and you give him a brand new quarterback, if it's not Deion, let's just say it's not, you're throwing him in with a new coach and they're going to figure out together. But if that doesn't work, then the carousel starts and you have Shedeur in here with.
But the thing is to fire on the coach now and before we draft that quarterback.
Right.
That
so
way
if they're going to do it, they need to do it now.
Right. That way he's not with Dable week 6, week 8, and they fire him, and he has to have a new quarterback. He just wasted all that time, all that offseason, in a system that is not matter anymore.
Right. So if the Giants
get it done now.
If the Giants are going to fire DeBoer, let's do it now. Let's not wait a season and have, a young quarterback season ruined.
Right. But why not pull a trigger on Shador and get Dion?
Right.
And then trade away our next 5 first rounds for Travis.
We talked about that situation and what it would take, and I think that's more than Joe Sheen's willing to give up, more than
No, but I do like our
John
GM.
Mara.
I don't think we need to fire him. But I think I wouldn't be mad at firing our coach. I really wouldn't.
I think Joe Shane's on the hot seat as is.
He is 100%. I can see how people think so, but that's what I'm saying. If you look deeper into it. Okay, I think if we get one quarterback and another playmaker and we don't do good next year, get him out of here.
I do think it's wrong to fire your GM that you hired pretty recently as soon as you're one piece away and potentially getting that one piece in the next draft.
And that's the deal. He just did all that stuff for you and you're going to fire him because he hasn't done it quick enough.
But I think
you can see it coming together.
You don't hire a GM for 2-3 years. You hire him you give him a good chunk of time, let him work with what he's working with, let him build. It just doesn't make sense to fire your GM a year before you're hitting that next stride, which I think they're about to. So, like you said, coach, it would make sense if you're not sure about DeBoer because you don't want to have a year wasted with a rookie quarterback. But a GM, at least let him finish what he's building. And if that still doesn't work, then fine. But I think he's on the right track.
Tracy, obviously that dude had some, conversation and pulling the trigger on that guy. He's turned out great for us. Okay, Andrew Phillips, he's turned out great for us. I think he's the highest rated defensive rookie, some time ago. You got Malik Neighbors. I mean, that's an easy pickup, but still, we're firing in the right way. He picked up Singletary, which I thought was a great pickup from the free agency choices last year. That dude's leading yards after contact in the NFL. So we got a playmaker at running back, a gritty dude at running back, another playmaker at receiver, and then I think Wan'Dale Robinson slept on. I think we beef up that line and give us a quarterback. It's solid.
I think beef up that line, give you a quarterback, maybe one more playmaker in there. I like to see another really talented receiver. I think you're set. I don't know. It just feels like they need more than a quarterback. But when you look at their roster on paper, that's what they're missing. But I like the position the Giants.
Quarterback and a good coach, Shador, and Dion, come my way. Thank you.
I like the spot the Giants are in. I like their roster on paper. Moving on, that was the 3rd overall pick. Number 2, we have the Las Vegas Raiders, and I think this is a team that we're going to be in agreement on. It's total rebuild from here.
Better start that engine up from scratch. Take the whole thing apart, besides Brock Bowers, and start over.
But, they're in the same boat as the Patriots. They have a lot of cap space. They don't have the quarterback yet.
That's a must.
But this is the question, do they hit the other positions first? Because if you look, if they end up with like the 5th overall pick and they know their favorite guys are Shador, Ward, and they're gone 1 through 4, do you hit the other positions, get yourself a good receiver, get yourself a great edge, and then hit the next quarterback class? Because
absolutely,
these quarterbacks you might have to talk yourself into after the first.
You have to look at it as you can't waste a 5th round or a 5th pick, like the 5th pick. You can't waste that. So if 2 people, and you got to think, and we were talking about this the other day, and it kind of blew my mind. Like, there's only there's 10 quarterbacks in this draft.
Right.
When 3 of those go away, it doesn't matter if they're in the first 3 picks. Usually, you've gone down a talent level 3 rounds. Does that make sense?
For this class, it could.
Like last class was not. That was an exception in itself. Because you had 6 quarterbacks in the first round. They're all first-round talent. I think in this class, it's a drop-off. You know what I mean? So, I think it goes like Cam Ward, Shador, and then it kind of dips.
I could see that. I just think that.
So I think you're losing 3 rounds in that, so don't fire on a quarterback just because you technically need one. Like, go get a defensive player who it might be the first defensive player off the board. And in that case, is that first-round, talent. So don't shoot the shot at, a Garrett Newsom or however you say his last name, or a Carson Beck. That would be very dumb.
Well, I think you just gotta I think the quarterbacks in this class you're going to have to talk yourself into if you're in a top 5 pick. And I think for a team like the Giants, it makes sense because that's your only spot. But when you're the Raiders and you have other positions to hit, and it's a quarterback class that's not great anyway, and you can get a premier position of edge rusher and Abdul Carter, or you can get a Ted McMillan to put outside.
Or on, we could even talk trades, and we see Cleveland sitting down there. Maybe they want to say, Las Vegas has 2 and Giants are at 3. They want their fair share at quarterbacks, whether that be Cam Ward or Shador. They trade down with the Browns. The Browns maybe give them a player like Myles Garrett that'll beef up that defense, and then they throw them another playmaker or more draft picks.
I think this is a very pivotal point. When we start doing mock drafts, we're going to see Vegas as a pivotal point in the mock draft, and it's going to shift a lot of things.
Right.
I think Vegas is going to be that there's always that one team that breaks the draft open. I think Vegas could be that team this year. Because if they're sitting at 5 and those 2 are gone and they reach on a guy like Milroe, or they reach on a quarterback further down their list and they just talk themselves into it because they need one bad, it could hurt them down the line because, the next year they could end up with the same pick and then be like, well, we can't take a quarterback now even though we like him more.
Right.
And so Vegas is in a tough spot. I'm interested to see what they do, but, they look at their defense. They got guys like Crosby and Wilkins they just got from the Dolphins. They got a good defensive front. On the offensive side of the ball, Bowers is going to be a star. We know
100%.
that. But, they're in a total rebuild. They need a lot more pieces. And I think it starts with the draft. But, again, they do have a lot of cap space. So, say they go out and get a free agent quarterback. I'm not really sure who's a free agent next year. But,
they need dimes.
You're
headed to Vegas.
It's going to be interesting to see what Vegas decides to do. And we're going to be talking about them as a pivotal point down the line, closer to draft season when we start doing mocks and stuff like that. Next up, the number 1 overall pick. As of right now, I don't know if this would change. Could you see this changing? So Jacksonville Jaguars.
Honestly, I'm not going to lie. Yes, I think their rest of their schedule is pretty easy. I know they have the Titans 2 more times. Right?
The Jaguars? Let's look that up.
I think the rest of their schedule is decently easy, so I feel like they could. They have the Titans 2 more times.
Titans, Jets, Raiders, Titans, Colts. There's definitely potential for a win or 2
like
in there.
A couple wins in there.
Which could punch them up a couple spots. So I could see a team like the Giants heading down there or quietly tanking. I don't know if it's quiet or not. I think starting DeVito and Locke screams that. But
maybe Jacksonville wins 2 more games. Vegas wins 1. We lose out.
And then you're sitting at 1.
Yes.
But anyway.
Taking Travis Hunter.
Jacksonville is in an interesting spot because you look at their roster on paper, and they have a lot of guys. You think Trevor Lawrence is that guy that they're not going to move on from him. They're going to stick with him.
Yeah, 100%.
You have ETN, good receiver or good running back. You have a decent receiving core.
Brian
Thomas to that.
He's doing very well.
He's looking great. You just extended Tyson Campbell. You have Josh Allen on the defensive front. So it's looking like, they have those young pieces. And they have guys they can rely on. It's just...
They're not far at all. I wouldn't say they're far
There's something that's off big. And
they just need some swagger to their team almost.
You got to kind of look at the coaching. When you look at a team that has a good roster and they're losing games, that's the first finger that's pointed to. And Doug Peterson has done a good job with this team in the past, but you cannot give them a reason to fire you. And right now, a 2-10 record is a reason that there's just not any juice when you watch their offense. There's nothing that's really clicking as a team, and it's been lackluster across the board. So they're just not a team to get excited about.
I think Travis Hunter is literally a perfect fit for them, especially if you're talking on the realm of being a 2-way football player at that level. Because you look at their DBs, there's nothing great there, and you look at their receivers, they definitely could use another playmaker.
I think he would also bring a level of,
intensity to the squad, 100%.
That they need. I think they're just missing something. They're missing that firepower and that.
They're not far off. I think them and the Giants are pretty close in the realm of having the same type of squad.
But you can also point the finger and say, Trevor Lawrence has not been what we thought he would be as a first overall pick. He's not. He's made some poor decisions. He's not been, elite as he should have been.
But I don't think he's been bad enough to point the finger at yet. I think if you get a couple more playmakers and you really give him a chance to shine and he still can't, do what he needs to do, then yeah.
I don't know. I think it's hard to really pinpoint where they've gone wrong, but I'm interested to see them in the draft as well. If they don't end up with that first overall pick, they could be another team that we're talking about as a pivotal point in the draft
100%.
process. But Dave, I think that was a good exercise. Kind of lets you see the teams at the top and what they might choose to do heading into draft season. We're gonna be back soon with more draft content, just like this.
Your favorite. It's your new favorite podcast. It's going to be a weekly deal, so we're hitting our stride again. Where there's a little bit of confusion. We're moving into this new studio and everything. Now we're all set. We're ready to go. We're excited. We're going to hit this hard. Looking into 2025, big things, big expectations, interviews, all that good stuff. We're coming at you hard. So
we got some good interviews coming up. We might get a past guest on.
Yep.
Y'all really like that one, so we might have certain someone come back. Follow the Instagram. It's right below David, right here. Go check out all the social medias and subscribe. All the good stuff.
Absolutely. Turn those notifications on. We'll be doing it. It's going to be going off every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So y'all show some love.
All right, and then head over to our sponsor, Pennant Patchworks. Use code DRAFTROOM15.
Get those Christmas gifts.
Get yourself a Christmas gift for all the people you love.
Absolutely.
All right, Dave. Head
Roll
us out.
the outro.